Good morning, students.
Good morning,
Good
ma'am.
morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
So yesterday I had told you the criticism of new ecology, right? I hope you had followed it and you could understand it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So see, the basic idea of the new ecological idea or the new ecological theoretical notion is that obviously, when you collect ethnographic data and quantitative data, you cannot model an evolutionary picture or cannot describe or give a descriptive account uh, based on that quantitative or qualitative data. Had it been something else, like if you had some kind of, say, suppose you are doing a study, an anthropological or an ethnographic account on marriage as an institution in a community and you want to see how it has changed, would you be able to do so? Would you be able to study how the evolution has taken place with regard to marriage as an institution?
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Ma'am, because changes in any social institution or culturally, if we talk about changes, then usually, and as far as like the trends are considered, they are decadal changes, like changes that took place over 10 years or 20 years, and we can measure those changes because those changes at a particular point in time were same for everyone. And a social institution, let's say like marriage, social institution like marriage is something that is culturally shared by everybody in that culture, of that particular culture. So it is same for all in that particular point in time. Even if changes happen, supposing there are some strictness in the social institution of marriage, but there are some flexibilities now. So those place changes didn't happen yearly. It took decades and decades for those changes to occur, and then
That's
when
fine.
they did, and
Yeah,
they were constant.
Vasantara, what I want to know is when you are doing ethnographic study on marriage as an institution and how those changes have taken place, and when you are doing a study on ecology and how ecology has changed, what are the limitations or the reason why one would be successful and the other won't be successful in a quantitative study?
Ma'am, one thing I feel is that a social institution is something that us human beings have formed,
Hmm.
and it is derived or it is influenced by our, like we control it basically. The We control our social institutions, but we do not control our ecology and our environment. So any changes in our environment is something we cannot control, so and we have to adapt and change according to our environment, whereas our social institution is something that we can change according to our needs and modernization and other factors in the society.
Okay, okay. So my question is again that if you are collecting ethnographic data on marriage as an institution, and if you're collecting data on ecological behavior of any community, um, why is it that ecology is something which is difficult to predict and marriage is something which is not that difficult to understand in terms of data?
Ma'am, we can simply say that marriage is a man-made institution, so it is very much easy to predict and mold it the way we want to see it.
Okay.
Whereas ecology would always be the same way that it has always been, except for the fact that how we interpret it may change a little bit or may produce similar kind of viewpoints.
Okay. See, one thing that you people are
Excuse me,
missing is
ma'am.
yes.
Ma'am, one thing I would like to add to this and to what I said previously, because we're talking in terms of data. So, ma'am, for marriage as an institution, and because obviously it's a human institution and we have created it, so it will change when we want it to change. But when we collect data on the same, there are particular trends and most in which most of the communities, all of the communities in that particular culture are confined. Let's, like, for example, five trends in which we can measure the communities. But when it comes to ecology and environment, measuring and interpreting data on the basis of the trends that took place is quite difficult, because those trends are ever changing, because environment is ever changing and unpredictable.
No, no. Very simply, when you have gone to collect ethnographic data, you need to understand in what way are you collecting the ethnographic data, and what is the scope of collecting ethnographic data for ecology. Okay, and ecological changes, while they are very tangible, they are far more, you can say, spread in terms of how they're far more widely spread compared to marriage as an institution. Marriage has more observable phenomena, more tangible phenomena. Therefore, you can just look at the pictures of ritual. You can just look at how people are dressed. You can just look at visual recordings of marriages. Yes or no? But can you have a visual recording of an ecological change? Yes, you can have a change कि यहाँ पे पहले 10 पेड़ थे, अब यहाँ पे 20 पेड़ हैं. You can probably have something like that. Or you can say, oh, the sky was not visible 50 years back, today it is visible. Yes, that is a change which is observable. But ecological changes cannot be recorded with much ease as you can record something like marriage. And that is why, which is very simple. How are you going to compare? You're constantly saying can be measured. Okay, first of all, Vasundhara, don't use the word measured, because what happens is an institution, a social institution, you know, you cannot measure it. You can observe it, you can evaluate it. Are you understanding? Measure is a technically wrong word. The other thing is, when I'm telling you that, okay, this particular phenomena can be ethnographically studied and this particular phenomena cannot be ethnographically studied, I want you to basically understand that ethnographically you can study marriage as an institution because you have more techniques that will allow you for gaining a triangulation of methods. You remember what is triangulation of methods? Anyone? I taught you what in ethnography.
Ma'am, I think you. No, that was Agniva, sir.
What did
I
you
thought
talk?
that you. No, he was talking about a triangle, but that was for language. That was for language yesterday.
So anyway, what I'm trying to basically tell you is that
Ma'am, is it about, uh, excuse me, ma'am?
go ahead. I'm listening.
Ma'am, is it the accuracy, validity, those things?
No, triangulation is when you use multiple methods to collect data from various perspectives. Okay, so I will do for focus group discussion also. I will also do visual collection of data. I will also do What do you say? I will also do something like interview, case study. So I've used more than one method to reach my conclusion. Okay, like if I go conduct a survey on a social institution, I will do one which is rapid survey, which is like questionnaire method. I will go into details of that questionnaire method, and I will just simply rapidly collect data. But in that rapid collection of data, I will also try to find out who all can be my per- prospective case studies. Then I will do case study collection of those people, of those respondents, while also I have done used one methodology. So three or more methods, three or more techniques to collect the same data from various vantage points allows me to establish the precision and the accuracy of the responses and my findings. Are you getting my point? That is
Yes,
triangulation.
ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that so basically that is what will not be a limitation in case of studying marriage, because you it allows you for triangulation. But in case of ecology, you cannot possibly go and say, oh, how do you have any evidence about how there have been changes in your relationship with the nature? You can't possibly do that, right? Nobody will have any evidences pointing out to that kind of a relationship between people and environment. Are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now the next thing is obviously another weakness was that was there is that there are times when you know you will find that in terms of ecology, systems are very difficult to follow. Systems are very chaotic, systems are very weakly bounded. I will give you people notes on systems ecology also for you to read. As I told you, once I'm done with this theoretical section, I will be uploading material on new ecology and systems ecology for you to read. So that is why I'm asking, and that is why I'm telling you that one more criticism that is there of new ecology is that the systems that we study, the ecological systems that we study in new ecology, they are often not very well connected, or at least we are not able to establish very strong connections, okay, between what we are doing, between what we are, uh, not trying to study, in the sense that let us take the example of man animal relationship. Now man animal relationship is one system, but which system are we looking at? The man animal relationship where man is dependent on animal for food, or for milk, or for in general emotional support? What are we looking at? And each of this system actually forms a unit inside our study of new ecology. Now, what happens is that particular events happen in ecological studies, like like this pandemic. This is a particular event. So, as a result of that, instead of looking at a complete system, the proponents of new ecology moved towards events. They said it is better to understand ecology from the point of view of events rather than systems, because systems are often very vague, are often very ambiguous for people to follow. On the other hand, events are those unitary, happenings, or unitary, you can say, um, you know, events are basically those unitary uh, changes in the relationship of man with his or her environment. So basically human beings change. So the sudden change or a temporary change or a event based change in the interface between human and nature is events ecology. And in new ecology, basically what happened was that Veda and Rappaport propounded a more dependence on events ecology rather than systems ecology. Okay. Now the next thing that we need to understand is cultural materialism. Is there anyone who faced any problem in following new ecology?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we move to cultural materialism, which is again another theoretical idea propounded by some anthropologists, especially Marvin Harris. Okay, cultural materialism was something which was propounded by or promoted by Marvin Harris. So I will talk about that now. It is something which is more of a functional approach to anthropology. Okay, it is more of a functionalist perspective to anthropology on specific, again, events which try to understand answers of questions like how did this happen and why did this happen in culture. Are you able to understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
It is, you can say, it is more directly linked with it is more directly linked with, you can say, unilinear evolutionary perspective. Okay, so in unilinear evolutionary perspective we had Lewis Henry Morgan and Adam Smith talking about hows and whys of culture, and they had started focusing on the subsistence economies of communities. In the same manner, cultural materialism also talks about how and whys of a culture. But we'll see what are the differences between unilinear cultural evolution and cultural materialism. So basically, cultural materialism is based on the idea that human social life is a response to the practical challenges of survival on the planet. Okay, are you following this?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you understand? Can you give an example, anyone?
Ma'am, can you repeat that?
Human cultural life is a response to the challenges of survival on this planet. This is how Marvin Harris tried to understand cultural materialism. Is there anyone who can explain this with an example of some sort?
Mom, can we take an example that is from like natural disasters? Because many of the natural disasters are some of the phenomena that humans really can't understand very much and are usually out of control. We
Okay.
still cannot do anything about many of them uh, aside from just studying them or trying to predict them. So many of the social and religious institutions often take these natural disasters or natural phenomena as some kind of messages from the gods
Okay.
and interpret it in that way.
Okay. So you are basically saying that our ritualistic performances and our religious life is something that tends to have, um, some kind of significant, So basically, are you trying to say that all the ritualistic performances and religious performances that we have are based on um, nature and based on disasters?
No, ma'am, not all of them, but maybe some of them may have been inspired from the fact that if we do something like this, maybe we can, try and satisfy some sort of entity so that we do not uh, experience those kinds of disasters.
Okay, okay. So I understood that what you are trying to say is cultural materialism here is that the ritualistic and religious performances in many ways are manifested as a result of our fear for hazardous and disastrous events that are, coming from or emanating from nature, right? That's what you are saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I get it. Okay, that's an example. Is there anyone else who can give me an example of cultural materialism, or just the idea that human social life is a response to practical problems of survival on this planet?
Ma'am, the kinship structures are also in a way a response of people to survival because they realize that family bonds are something that they need in order to survive in the world. So they started forming a proper structurized social hierarchical system where your kinship structures were stronger.
Mm-hmm. Were established in the first place and then they became more and more institutionalized. Yes, that's a good example. Because what generally happens with the kinship structure is that the kinship structure does two things. um, it ensures progeny. Okay, so basically what it does is, you need to understand that um, when we have if suppose I'm sure you know what is an IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. Do you know this IUCN?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So what IUCN does is basically it looks at the population of all the animals and all the species on the planet, mostly the ones that are significant and mostly the ones that are endangered. And what they basically do is they look at how their breeding habits. Okay. And when they look at the breeding habits, they realize कि अच्छा इसमें if there are tigers, how many females and males are there, and how many of them are in a period where they can actually healthily bear cubs. Okay, so the possibility of breeding and the possibility of progeny is something which is crucial to IUCN. Now if there is any animal species which has only two males left, all the females are dead, then in that case they will officially move that animal species into the list of extinct. Okay, even though you will say, oh, there are 10 males there. Okay, so you can see 10 males there, but obviously you and I know that because they require a female to be able to breed. Okay, and therefore they are officially extinct. There are so many animals that are hermaphrodites that are able to carry either of the sexes or either of the genders, or they have both the qualities, the quality of bearing the child and the quality of being the fertilizer, okay, of the egg. So as a result of that, there are many species that will, even if there is one member of that species left, you know that there is scope. If it is a young member, then you know. Now in case of human society, something very similar happens. A kinship structure allows for two things. One, it allows for progeny, the creation of progeny, that is the creation of the next generation. And the second, it ensures the survival of that which is born in the environment, which has already come and taken existence. So two goals of society, two goals of kinship is to ensure that there is continuity of survival, and the fact that this survival is protected. And that is why one of the central reasons why there is a kinship structure is because you want to together, okay, you want to together fight for the challenges, fight against the challenges, sorry, that the planet puts towards you in terms of survival. Okay, it's a very good example, and there are several such examples that you can take into consideration in order to understand the idea propounded by Marvin Harris. Now, there are obviously some issues in the idea of cultural materialism, but let me just first discuss with you what cultural materialism entails and how cultural materialism was promoted as a theoretical idea. So, Marvin Harris basically said that, it is very straightforward. Cultural materialism is fairly straightforward, and it emphasizes a very empirical approach, uh, in the sense that it basically says that economy, technology, environment, population, all of these things, uh, they take an evolutionary perspective, and they have, an ideology of survival driving them. Okay, are you understanding? The economy is something where we are talking about how human societies are gathering food and ensuring survival. I'm not talking about economy in terms of finance and in terms of share market, but in general, how are families dividing resources, how are they utilizing these resources, and how are these resources um, being brought to the family in the first place. All of these things become a part of economy, and this as an institution ensures the biological survival of the community, just like any other institution. Now, Marvin Harris said that there there was this concept that Marvin Harris came up with, which was known as techno environmental materialism. Okay, now, what is techno environmental materialism? In techno environmental materialism, you will find that there was a particular ideology, there was a particular idea that cultural institutions could be explained through their material payoffs. Okay, so basically it wasn't like he was trying to say that every cultural institution could be explained through material payoff, but he was just saying that you can research each cultural institution through its direct material payoff. Okay, so this what is this direct material payoff, if anyone can explain? um, Is there anyone who can explain what is a direct material payoff of an institution, of course?
Ma'am, is it like any social institution providing us with some material because we have invested ourselves in that particular culture?
Think of an
Like,
example and you will be able to explain it to me. Think of an example.
okay, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Ma'am, can it be the like gifts received at marriages? Like one example could be that I
Okay.
think like let's say for example my like me and my family we went to a relative's wedding,
Hmm.
and we have gone there and we have given some gift or like some amount of money
Hmm.
that is there for like for good luck and for like in order to give our blessings to the person who's getting married. But
Okay.
that is sort of an investment which will later pay off when it comes to a marriage in my family.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Um. Okay. That's an example which can be taken, but it is a rather complex example, Vasundhara. Basically, when I say pay off, it simply means what are the benefits or what are the direct material yields, which is YIELDS, direct material yields of any social institution. Okay. So, like Ishita just now gave a very good example of kinship structure and how kinship structure is something that ensures our survival. What is the direct material payoff? I gave two examples of direct material payoff, that it provides for a scope for people to produce progeny, and it provides for the survival of that progeny. Okay. If you go to any community, I'm not talking about just our community, but in general. Okay. Even if you take our community, suppose there are children playing outside. Okay. Um, if there are children playing outside and you have a sense of kinship with your neighbor, if there is anything wrong that happens to a child of your family and you are not present but your neighbor is present, won't your neighbor raise an alarm? Won't your neighbor try to um, see what is wrong with the child?
Yes, ma'am, they would.
And that is because you have established a social bond with your neighbor. If that social bond was not there, then you would not have cared, you would not have bothered, and they would not have cared, and they would not have bothered. Are you understanding? So it's a very simple thing. What is the direct material payoff of that relationship? That your children and their children, when they are playing, first of all, they are finding society of similar age group, so they are not going to get bored in the house. And the second is that your children are playing, or their children are playing in a secure environment. So this environmental security is something that is very significant, that is very important for and that is the direct material payoff. So you don't really have to think in terms of finances only. Direct material payoff means that marriage as an institution. What is the direct material payoff of marriage? Anyone who can tell me?
Ma'am, progeny.
Okay. What else? Is it just progeny? Is it just production of children? For that, marriage is not required. If somebody wants to reproduce, they can jolly well reproduce as long as they
Ma'am,
are in.
it's,
No, no,
ma'am, we're
I'm
in
asking.
India.
Ma'am,
Yes, share.
establishment of social bonds.
Yes, one of the first things is that there is establishment of social bond and you are expanding your social bond. Okay, not necessarily are all marriages taking place between families that already know each other. There are times when marriages take place between families that are not familiar with each other. And on the first day itself, the direct material payoff is not of children, but of an enhanced social bonding. Okay, an enhanced exposure to other cultural aspect. Now, even if that marriage is suppose intercaste, interregional, interfaith, even of that sort, then also there is an enhancement in the number of people you have familiarized yourself with. Now, what does that do? What does it do? It creates kinship. It creates enhanced scope for your survival. There are more people to know about your existence. There are more people who are going to take care of you. There are more people who are going to have a sense of family with you. Are you getting my point? So there are more people who are going to uh, make sure that your marriage with your partner is not just limited to two of you, but it extends beyond that. Why do we require that? Because yesterday I told you man is a social being, and therefore you require the direct material payoff from the very first day. What has happened? If See, I will just give you the example of dowry, even though it is a very problematic example. But I will tell you, in families where there is still dowry going on and being practiced, you will know one thing, that there are two kinds of securities that girls' families gather or gain from whatever is given as dowry. One is अगर dowry बहुत ज़्यादा दी and it is beyond the expectations of the boy's family, then what has the family done? They have ensured that their child or their daughter is or always safe in that house. Okay, there are times when dowry is not given because the daughter's family or the girl's family doesn't have the means to fulfill the demands of dowry, and then what happens, they are constantly in the mortal fear of their child's safety. Am I right? Are you understanding? So these are the things that are direct material payoffs. People are actually looking at direct material payoffs when there is an within caste marriage in a family. The direct material payoff is more and more people are going to like that union. More and more people are going to appreciate that union. It is the direct payoff, material payoff, that the validation will be received for your family, that oh, their child went for a person of their caste, so that child can be judged with having a higher moral character or a higher integrity or a more attached, rooted personality in her or his uh, caste identity. There's so many things. These are all material payoffs. Are you not understanding what is material payoff? Anything that is observable and anything that is profitable. Are you getting my point? So everything, every action has a direct material payoff. Um, Children born within a wedlock, okay, they are known as legitimate children. So the direct material payoff of a marriage is three four things. One, it enhances your kinship network. Second, it ensures that there is progeny. And third, it ensures that the progeny is legitimate. Okay, are you understanding? Because legitimacy is a big question in Indian culture. Therefore, legitimate children being born out of a marriage is a direct material payoff of marriage as an institution. Are you clear, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the
Yes, ma'am.
direct payoff, material payoff of food collection or subsistence economy? People who are doing foraging, people who are doing agriculture, people who are doing pastoralism, what is the direct material payoff? Anyone?
Ma'am, they get to have the like food for themselves.
Food
Uh,
calories, right?
yes, yes,
Energy
ma'am.
from food, that is the direct material payoff. Okay, there's no other complicated. Then there is trading between communities. Then there is market between community. These are also direct material payoff. But the most direct material payoff of a subsistence practice is that people get to eat the food, and therefore food calories are the direct material payoffs. Are you getting my point? So in a cultural institution, what Marvin Harris did was, he said that first you should, he didn't say that every institution should be studied or can be analyzed from a direct material payoff perspective only. What he said was that you should first try to look at what is the direct material payoff of any institution, and then you should go for sociological and psychological payoffs. Are you getting my point? Marriage, again, I'm taking marriage as an example since we were discussing on that. What does marriage do? There is progeny, there is survival, there is enhanced kinship, um, you know, network. Now, the direct material payoff is two, which is survival of the progeny and the progeny itself. These are the two direct material payoffs. What are the psychological or sociological payoffs? The psychological or sociological payoffs are obviously the broadening of your kinship network. The second, I told you, legitimacy. Okay. There are so many women in this world, and there are so many men in this world who do not even consider themselves valid in terms of their survival, in terms of your existence until they are married. There are many people, okay? There are many people who think that because they are not married, there is something less in them, there is something lacking in them, okay? So the direct material payoff, while is legitimate children and and the survival of those children, as well as more members, more family bonds with more number of members, the psychological payoff is that people become um, assured that now when they are married, there is a person who is going to economically be a partner with them, who is going to be psychologically be there for them, and who is going to be a legitimized partner with them. Okay, are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else who has faced any problem, like right now a certain actor who has whose case has been discussed so much on the media? One of the reasons which a lot of people are pointing out as the reason why his partner is being you know what should I say, is being mistreated by the media, by the people, by the general public, is because she is not married to him. Okay? Are you understanding how marriage as an institution validated or validates people's survival and legitimizes it? There are so many incidents in the past where the married partner has been responsible for the death of their partner. Then also, people conveniently forget that, and people have put this girl under scanner because she was not married and she was doing something unconventional, that is, she was living with her partner without marriage. Are you getting my point? Hence so much of, she may be involved, she may not be involved, nobody knows that, but that is for the legal framework and the judiciary to decide. But so much of trial happening by the people, where you can just look at public forums strewn with abuses for that girl. Why is that? Did you and I go and sit and see how their relationship was? No, none of us were there. Then why is it that people are so quick to pass judgment? Because there was no marriage, and therefore there was no legitimacy to the relationship. Okay, you can't possibly say कि अच्छा ये तो शक्ल से murderer दिखता है या murderess दिखती है. You can't say that, right? There are times when people who you least expect turn out to be the criminals. So, conspirators. There's so many things in the legal and judicial framework. But people, there are so many people. If people selectively show you evidences, you will become biased. But why should they show you evidences? These evidences are admissible in the court of law. They should not be made public in the first place, but they are being made public, and the public is reacting to it. Sensationalism all around. So are you understanding what I'm trying to say? That even
Ma'am,
marriage
the
is an
comments are
institution.
not just only for girls, but the whole culture is being blamed.
Um, I'm sorry, I don't have a television, so I don't know what you mean. You have to tell me. I am just talking about news, so news that I get to read on the newspaper. But what did you mean when you were saying that the whole
Uh,
culture is being blamed?
Ma'am, like the social media is full of ma'am comments like Bengalis are like that, Bengalis do black
Oh,
magic and all
oh,
that.
okay. Oh, I
Yes.
didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. This is also something which is very interesting that is coming up. So yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you, that this particular trial by media, okay, is something which is very strange. And the other day I was just thinking to myself that if someone very dear to me passes away, I will be in shock. I will be in trauma, and in too much of shock and trauma to actually go and put a crying smiley on my WhatsApp status or on my Facebook or on my Instagram. If I put that, does that mean I'm mourning? And if I don't put that, that means I'm not mourning. So are you understanding how these things have become so twisted and so complex? But at the same time, one simple thing, had she been married to that boy, she would have been a poor widow. She would have been a person with whom the world would have sympathized. Are you understanding my perspective? That what I'm trying to tell you is that when you look at marriage as an institution, this is the amount of legitimacy and validation that people get from this. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you, that any institution has some sort of direct material payoff linked to it, and also the sociological and psychological aspect to it. Okay, so as an anthropologist, I will just look at this event, as I was telling you, events ecology. So I will just look at this event and I will try to understand that from the perspective of an event, how has this panned out? Okay, people have been too quick to judge. People have been, and this thing that Ankur is telling me about Bengalis doing black magic is something so old. It's something so old because um, this this is something we have known from our childhood days. Okay, so and interestingly, I've had some friends from uh, Africa who even told me, the African continent, who told me something very interesting. They told me that the water of Indian Ocean is black because it is strewn with black magic. It is completely immersed in black magic, and therefore, because Cape of Good Hope, which is the lowest point for their continent, um, that's where the Indian Ocean meets the Atlantic Ocean, and they say that the water of Indian Ocean is black. And I asked them, don't you think it could be just pollution, or it could be just different color of the water? They said, no, it's black magic. So for them, the entire Indian community is actually something that is practicing black magic. So this is not something new. Okay, so are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? That as an institution, there are direct material payoffs, and then there are indirect material payoffs in the form of sociological and psychological fulfillment that people seek. You don't even understand how people get psychologically more stable once they are married. And in fact, for a long time, people used to feel, acha, there is depression, shadi karwa do. Acha, this person is suicidal, shadi karwa do. Like as if marriage was the solution to everything. So this validation that and legitimacy that the institution comes up with is so strong, and you can find it in economy, you can find it in marriage, you can find it in politics, you can find it in religion. Like Jay gave the example that religion is something which is a solution to almost everything. Dar lag raha hai, okay, recite this God's name. Okay, are you scared? Recite this hymn. Are you scared? Okay, carry this symbol. So these are the things. Are you anxious? Are you stressed? Are you feeling less motivated? Okay, religion is there to rescue you. So there are direct material payoffs again and indirect material payoffs there. So we'll develop a little more on this, but till new ecology, as I've told you, next week there will be a test, okay, a quiz sort of thing, and also based on my experience in the past, where I have been told that online tests have resulted in a kind of a cartel where students have been calling each other for MCQ answers. Therefore, my test is going to be open-ended. I'm sorry, but there's going to be no MCQ because this cheating cartel has been exposed for all the sections and all the classes. So I can't afford to do that again and again because I've been flooded with screenshots for some other tests. I am really tired now, so I will be giving a test to all of you, uh, you know, which will be mostly open-ended. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. And then quickly turn on your cameras because we have overshot the time. Abantika, Akshat, Ankur. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Akshat is the only one. Abantika, I saw you. Ankur, I saw you. Akshat, Dipanshi,
Present,
and
ma'am.
Divya.
Present.
Okay.
Present, ma'am.
Dipanshi.
Present,
Okay.
ma'am.
I saw Georgian also. Divya. Jay also I saw.
Present, ma'am. Can you see me?
Ishita. Okay, I can see Ishita also. Divya, I can't see you. Maybe it'll take some time to stream. Um, Jay, I've already seen. Karan and Neha.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Neha.
Present, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you
Priyanka.
see
I can see Karan.
me? Can you
I'm
see?
I'm waiting. Yeah, I can see Priyanka. I did not see Neha and Divya. That's okay. Maybe there's some problem with Neha.
Ma'am,
Divya,
can you
your
see me?
yeah, your screen is on now.
Ma'am, can
Yes,
you see me?
I can see Divya. Then
Ma'am,
Ritika Samaksh. Ritika Samaksh.
Present, ma'am.
Yeah, I can see Samaksh.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Tanzin and Vasundhara.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, I can see Tanzin also. Vipul Vishnu. Vasundhara also.
Present, ma'am.
Vipul and
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
yeah, I can hear Vipul. Vishnu.
My camera's on.
Yeah, I can see you. Okay, thank you everyone. So we meet next time for the test, okay?